Well, while we're waiting for snow, I mean, I guess we'll just start chit-chatting. What'd you do this week?
Actually, there's snow. Where is she? Actually, I did something new to me. I've never been investing into stocks, and for the first time in my life, I started figuring out the stock market, and I bought and sold my first stock and made 21 cents in 4 minutes.
Oh my goodness. I admire you.
I could lose.
During these tough times, everybody like, and you're like, yeah, well, I'm gonna learn how to do this, and then I'm gonna deliver groceries, and I'm just gonna.
I'm like, it's like I'm snaking my way through. You know, it's like one thing is off, the next thing is on. As one thing is off, the next thing is on. You gotta look for opportunities. So I'm looking for opportunities. That's what I do.
I'm just cooking. You know, I'm thinking of starting my pretend cooking show. So I'm doing all these vegan recipes I never tried. I've tried baking, and it's been exciting, and now I'm baking every day.
Awesome.
There you go. Now you can bake in front of the camera and share the experience, right?
Well, I'm only practicing it with Julia and Ricardo and Boyko at this moment. So, you know,
how to prepare an omelet for dancers. How to prepare an omelet for dancers. You do 3 turns to the left. Slap the egg, 3 turns to the right.
Honestly, I baked one time during quarantine. It was a delicious set of brownies, and obviously I didn't make them from scratch. I put down a brownie mix of some sort. I ate them all, and that was it.
Oh,
I stopped immediately.
That could be dangerous.
Yeah.
That's why no baking.
No baking.
I get my calories with vino. I can't have dessert.
My downfall is ice cream. Give me peanut butter and ice cream anytime. I'm like, oh, geez.
We have few people with us today. This is exciting. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just put the chat on so we can see.
People can ask questions. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I see Benji is there. So. Snejana, who is introducing our awesome friend today? We have exciting guests today.
I think that's me who's introducing Benji Schwimmer. I think Schwimmer, you say. Sorry, Benji. I'm sorry. Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
We all have accents, so Schwimmer is very hard to pronounce.
But Schwimmer is no, it's not how you would say it in German. Schwimmer. It's like
Schwimmer. Yeah.
Schwimmer is. I speak German, so Schwimmer for me is that easy. It's so Americanized that I say swimmer and start to look around, because now I don't speak any language correctly anymore, so forget about it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Benji Schwimmer. He holds the record for most consecutive wins, going undefeated for 14 seasons in sport and dance history. Eat that. He's America's favorite dancer in season 2 of So You Think You Can Dance. And he has choreographed for world champions in Latin, ballroom, smooth rhythm, all styles. For Dancing with the Stars and World of Dance, and he recently was a movement specialist for Leonardo DiCaprio in the Quentin Tarantino hit Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Welcome, Benji Schwimmer.
Whoa! Hey. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's lovely being amongst such beauties, and you are definitely much more dressed than I am right now, so I feel...
I'm in my pajamas.
Have a little summer dress. I mean,
okay, all right. Oh, just pajamas and the summer dress. I'm in a t-shirt, and I wore a hat because I woke up this morning to the sound of landscape artists that were nearly destroying the wall in my place. And like, I'm in the middle of like moving right now. So we're in a townhome, and we're renting this townhome. And so they have landscape artists that come around and clean up, but they literally picked right now the time to cut every tree in front of my unit. It's just, I woke up in a panic. I'm like, no, I have dancer talk. No, I gotta talk to the ladies. This is terrible. So I'm happy to be here despite being a little underdressed, but we negotiated with them. They're gonna be coming back at a later time. So
Benji, what state are you in? Are you in United States or you outside of the country? Where are you at this moment?
It's so funny you ask. So at the beginning of this craziness, this pandemic, my fiance and I were in Italy and then New York, and then we came to California. So it's we've been kind of like riding this wave before things got really bad. We've had a chance to kind of leave and stay on the West Coast right now. So I'm currently in Palm Springs, California.
But you are Californian, are you?
I am. Yeah, born and raised in California, lived in Mexico for a little bit, but normally now the last 2 years I've been pretty much tri-coastal between Europe, New York, and Los Angeles, basically.
So Benji, the way I actually know you is I don't know you. I know your dad. I don't know him either, but I know of your dad.
Yeah.
But during my whole career, especially in the 90s, your dad was an icon of teaching us how to use swing and jive.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I saw him several times. I think I saw you dance when you were like 13 years old or something like this, like long time ago. You danced a little Latin. And that was like 20 years ago. And I just came to the United States. That's where I remember you from. So you grew up in a dance family and have a very famous dad. Is that where you have all your movement knowledge from, or who gave you the spark? Because he's like a movement genius.
I would say like I'm very fortunate and blessed to be a dancer on both sides of my family line. So my father is a world-renowned teacher, known as the King of Swing, Benji Schwimmer, and he's also, his father was a dancer. So I think it's really interesting to note. I love sharing this with people. A crazy fact is my grandfather, my dad's dad, he is the only man to ever beat Fred Astaire in a formal dance competition.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Right?
Awesome.
And the craziest thing about it is he was a bread truck driver. He never danced professionally. He said he never thought it could provide for a family. He had 10 kids, so he just never thought it was ever a possibility. So he delivered bread in California. And but my dad to this day will tell me that he was the best dancer he had ever seen. Until he had me, of course, but I think he's just being a proud dad at this point. And
you just took over for both of them, right?
Right. And my mother, the interesting thing about her is that she met my dad taking a dance class from him during the disco era. And so my mother she was going to be a prima ballerina. She was very, very well trained in ballet, awesome talent, natural talent, and yet she was also doing gymnastics as recreation, and she broke her arm and her leg. And so none of the ballet companies would take her. So she decided to stick all of her energy into dance and gymnastics. And she did musical theater. She's directed a lot of tours and shows. And so I kind of get the movement concept in between the two of them somewhere. I'm a little bit of my mom, a little bit of my dad, and then kind of my own thing as well. So there's a balance between it all, but just very fortunate to have such amazing parents and just wonderful humans that have always been open to letting me kind of figure things out on my own in my own way. And I couldn't be more grateful. I love my parents so much.
So Benji, I want to ask you, because I come from a dancing family as well. Was that like a high expectation all the time? Like, oh, you watch it once and they're like, all right, go ahead, do it. Did you have that in your family? Because I was chased by that. I was the youngest one to dance in my family, and they always expected me to get it from the first time. Did you have that?
Yeah, Snow, by the way, it's so good seeing you. Happy Mother's Day to you all, by the way, whoever's watching right now. It's funny. I've known Snow for a long time. We're both So You Think You Can Dance alumni, and she was one of the first dancers I ever saw on that show that inspired me to audition. And I'm like, oh my God, if a partner dancer can kill it, then maybe I have a chance to be seen for 10 seconds. So Snow, you're just, Snejana, you're an amazing
And then you
talent.
just went up and won the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, who knows? It's probably because of my dance family, not so much from me, or maybe they just felt sorry for this face. I don't know. But either way, the funny thing is in general, my parents, they were never perfectionists with me, actually. In fact, it was the opposite. They almost had to like calm me down. So ever since I was a little boy, Snejana, like they literally were, oh, good job. Let's go have like a break. Let's go take a break. And I'm like, no. And I would send them out of our garage where we would practice. And I remember for some reason I couldn't do a back handspring. You know, the back flip where you put your hands on the ground? And my mom said she went to go cook lunch because I was so mad at myself that I couldn't get it. She just kept hearing me crying. and doing it again. And so I've always just been a bit obsessive and a bit of a perfectionist. And yeah, so no, I didn't really have it with my parents. However, later in life, they were. The times that I needed them to be, the times where maybe my ego got in the way and I wasn't putting in the right effort and energy, yeah, that happened. But not when I was a kid. I had very unlike Eastern European parents, if you will, in general, which I think has something to do with it sometimes, because all of my friends that are Latin dancers that come from Russia or Ukraine, their parents tend to either they didn't understand dancing at all, or they were like, it's 110% or nothing. So you push it, you do it, you kill it, you're amazing, which is why we have so many talented Eastern European dancers in the world, to be honest with you. I almost wish I was raised in Russia or Ukraine or somewhere in or Germany, somewhere where it's just super disciplined, because I think it would have fed my perfectionist soul a little bit more.
So your dancer also, your sister is also a dancer. So who would you say is the best dancer out of two of you?
That's great. I'll say this. I think Lacey is the natural better dancer, but if you put me in a competition against anybody, I'm gonna kick your ass. So
Okay, that's the answer.
Talking about the competition, because we just read your bio, for everybody who doesn't know what it is you're 14-time champion in, can you please tell our listeners?
That's a great question.
About those amazing achievements.
Oh, that's sweet of you. I remember when I won my final world championship, I sent Donnie Burns a text saying, "We have the same record now, Donnie." And he responded by, he's like, "It's not the same thing." I said, "Yeah, you're right, because I also won So You Think You Can Dance. I won Formation Team. I won Solo Cabaret. I was a
In
US
your face, Donnie.
So I've known Donnie for years. Obviously, we're cousins-in-law, because my first dance partner is my cousin Heidi Grosskreutz Burns. And so I've known Donnie. In fact, there was a video that was just posted recently where it was my very first choreographed dance performance ever. You want to know a funny story, guys? My very first performance ever was I believe it was at the Embassy Ball in 1987. Or 1988, and I was 3 or 4 years old at the time, and Heidi and I went out there, and we were a part of the Donnie and Gaynor and Ron Montez and Liz Curtis double show, and we were like this intermission dance number. For those of you that are not ballroom affiliates, these are legends, U.S. Latin champions, World Latin champions, multiple years in a row, and they had this amazing, first of its kind dual show. And my parents, because my dad and my mom were coaching both couples at the time and teaching them how to swing, it was that. So I've been around that all my life. But what I've done with my titles is I'm a world swing dance champion. But in our divisions, we have a open genre policy. So there are 33 official styles of swing in the world, which is pretty interesting because most people know of East Coast, West Coast, Lindy Hop Jive. And there's so many other
boogie woogie, Charleston.
yeah. In fact, Charleston was just actually one of the grandparents of swing, because at first Charleston was a solo dance based upon African bubata rhythms, and those African rhythms developed heavily in cultures in Harlem, New York. And so they took that rhythm, and then after the Charleston became popular, they started to find ways to hold hands and to take the ideas of traditional ballroom dancing, but using the Charleston as a basic, having the follower go back on the right leg, having the leader go forward on the left leg, similar to a mambo or a salsa. So it's pretty cool how that kind of transitioned, and then phrasing changed with musical history. I won't go deep into a history of it all, but they consider me what I do now, either modern swing, which is what we call it now, or West Coast swing. But it's not fair to call it West Coast swing anymore, even though ballroom tends to use that title still. I'm actually working really hard on getting all of the federations in ballroom dance to change the title of West Coast swing to modern swing, because the thing that I have an issue with is our dance is musically progressive. West Coast swing or modern swing is the only swing dance that is not categorized by a specific amount of decades of music. So we can dance to anything. We danced, one year I danced to dubstep, the next year I danced to a song from 1934. The next year I did a song that I made myself a couple months earlier in our world championships. So it's kind of a vast variety, but it's a combination of swing rhythms to new or random music. And there are a certain amount of required elements, lifts, drops, technique, floor craft, and formations similar to figure skating rules for pairs. Very, very similar structure. And it's actually very, very fun. So it's not just a show dance. You have certain required elements, an amount of content that you have to put in there. We have technique that is just as strict as that of ballroom dancing, except we just have a lot less dedicated dancers and a lot less knowledgeable judges at this point. But we're working on that. And part of my retiring from competition is to help take what I've learned from the other worlds of dance, such as ballroom, and to kind of give that layer of sophistication and evolution and understanding and criteria to better identify good dancing in our community.
But you have so much like experience in all around different kind of dance work. When you say, for example, you worked for Dancing with the Movies, or even going back that you say your grandfather was the only one beating Fred Astaire. How do you feel it's a very different work to, let's say, like teach somebody who needs something for the movie specifically? Because a while ago, maybe 10 years ago, I had a studio in Jupiter, Florida, and that's where Burt Reynolds lived when he was alive. And I had the honor, I have to say, to one time host a class together with him about ballroom dancing and television.
Wow.
So, you know, obviously the way I come from competitive dancing, from Latin dancing, from ballroom. And then it was for me fascinating what they actually needed for camera work. Like, how is that all different when you say ballroom dancing or dancing for the movies and dancing for the competition? And how do you know what to train Leonardo DiCaprio for that movie?
Great question. God, you guys came prepared. I'm just saying, you guys.
No, I'm really curious. That's just me like wanting to know from you.
But I just have to compliment the three of you. I'm seeing the screen right now, you know, and, you know, I see these wonderful people who are so accomplished in their field, and you're going back and forth and like ping pong balling these questions. I just wanted to compliment the three of you first. Sorry, tangent over.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. The way that I go about it is this. So because I'm part of like multi-generations of dance family, I may have competed predominantly in swing dancing, but I also, for many years, growing up, we were a dance studio family. So I've taken all sorts of different styles of dance, and I competed at one point. At one point, I was a U.S. amateur Latin finalist, actually the last year that I competed in Latin. I only competed for about 3.5 years. A lot of that had to do with timing, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that I knew I didn't have that aesthetic or that look, and I almost had to make a choice. If I wanted to be a world champion in something, I had to choose, I think, one. I don't think you could navigate like being a world champion in several different styles that are so mechanically different. And so for me, it was a very difficult choice, but I'd been swing dancing longer than I'd been formerly ballroom or Latin dancing. And I felt like I've been doing it so long, it felt more like my native dance. If dance was a language, that was the one that I spoke it the most fluently, I would say. And, but with regards to knowing what to do, I've done a little bit of everything. So as much as I know how to do a proper settling action of my hip in an anchor step, which is a swing term, I also know how to do a back basic, an alemana, a crossbody lead, as much as I know how to do a pirouette, an ala sacone, as much as I know how to do up rocking and groundwork for breakdancing. So I've always been, my parents have always taught me, like, if you want to excel in competition, do it. But if you don't know how to speak the language of all different types of dances, if you don't know how to speak the technique of these individual languages, then you're almost disrespecting beautiful avenues of movement and potential opportunities to work, right? And so I know, for example, Snow, she can do so many different styles of dance, and she successfully competed in various styles of dance over the years, a world champion herself. So for me, what I wanted to always do is to be able to know. And actually, in fact, a lot of this happened. I trained all the time as a kid. I used to battle in break dancing when I was a kid, finding people on the street, get out of my car and just break dance against people sometimes. I've done that since I was a kid. If somebody ever challenged me, like, that's the Schwimmer side. That's the don't poke the bear kind of side. Like, I think I'm a nice guy, but don't challenge me or else you gonna die. So The biggest thing for me,
very nicely, but you're gonna die.
with a smile on my face.
Benji.
Yeah. So in general, to wrap around that question, the reason why I became able to do that and how and to know what to say was, one, I was always obsessed with all the different figures, both solo and partner and team and big picture. And I was always choreographing stuff. After So You Think You Can Dance, I felt really guilty. A funny story that after I won, they were flying me to New York City to be interviewed by Kelly Ripa. And I remember sitting there, and our judge, Dan Carity, was in the plane with me, and they gave me a first-class seat. They gave him a coach seat, of course, because Fox doesn't pay anything for anybody. And so I told him to take my seat because I felt guilty that they gave me, the winner, but not a judge, the first-class seat. And I remember sitting in that seat in a corner all by myself, crying because I felt so under-deserving of the praise that I got for being on So You Think You Can Dance. And so I made myself a promise that before I landed, that I was going to take the money that I won from that show and a year as representing the crown of the dance. And I was going to pick a week to reach out, find a professional dancer, a master at the style of dance or movement that they do. And I begged them, basically, I sent emails out to every dancer that I could find that I appreciated and respected, the best of the best. And I said, can I shadow you for a week? Whatever dance convention you're going to, whatever lessons you're teaching, can I just be a fly on the wall and learn from you? And it would be my honor to assist you. I'll get you coffee. I will, and this is me as the guy that just won that dance TV show. And I asked them, can I just be your whipping boy for a week? You know, and I'll pay for dance lessons. I'll do whatever I have to do, but I'll help you out. But let me just learn from you. And so I did that for almost the entire year after So You Think You Can Dance. And it was great one week to focus on crumping, and then the next week to focus on combat fighting for stage and theater and film, to another day to focus on just pirouettes, to another day to focus on salsa and hustle. So it was just beautiful to it was my college education, if that makes sense. And I was already a world champion in swing dancing, but I knew that that wasn't my end game. It was just part of my journey. And so
Actually beginning, right?
Yeah, it felt like everyone's like, oh my gosh, you know, you've peaked. And it's like, yeah, maybe my Facebook, or at the time, maybe my MySpace was super popular. But as far as I'm concerned, that was my high school, college experience. It wasn't reality. It was reality TV, but no, you know, it's, as we all know, anybody that's had a friend on Dancing with the Stars, we know that it's not reality, and it's just an experience to take advantage of. And so I took advantage of it in the educational format, because I never had the aspirations to give up on dancing and become something else. To me, I want to be a dance teacher like my parents are. I want to work in film and branch out creatively, but it's my first love to teach, actually, whether it's breaking down myself or others, building up others. So
what I think is very beautiful that you said, and I'm a true believer about it, and I would always say it in my lessons, that dancing is a language. I mean, the first thing that we do before we come out of mom's womb is movement, and that becomes our first action, right? So dancing is our first language before we get to be influenced by different, you know, dialogues or, you know, cultural things and everything else. So I think it's beautiful to experience and explore and continue moving and learning. I mean, I'm really, really happy that you did that, because I did that as well. I continued learning, and I still continue learning on a daily basis from everybody that I can kind of, you know, get my hands on, because I believe that movement is our first language.
Amen to that. Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful.
All right, guys, it's already quiz time. Can you believe it?
It
Time
is.
oh, who knew?
I still have a lot of questions. All right. Snezha, you doing the quiz?
All right, but I mean,
Good.
wow, this time flies. Benji, we're having so much fun. So
My apologies.
We can have like you for 20 hours, I'm sure. So the rule of the game is that I'll ask you quickly questions, and you have to answer very quickly without thinking too much about it.
Got it.
Okay. One thing that annoys you the most about people.
Right now, when you don't wear a mask in public. But I would say the other thing, that the one thing that annoys me the most about people in general is when they're on speakerphone in public and they don't need to do that.
Thank you. Yes. Oh.
If you can't sleep at night, what do you do?
I dance. If I can't sleep at night, that means that the muse of dance is telling me to wake up and move. And so I usually go in my kitchen or the dance room that I'm building in the house and I move.
What is your favorite body part?
My favorite body part, I think, would be hands. Are you saying my personal body part or in general?
Yours.
My hands, because I have these terrible hands. They have like big padded, I have stubby fingers, but really big palms. And I was very sensitive about them. And there was a message board on So You Think You Can Dance that said I had mutant hands. And so I always like to dance and express through my hands a little bit more because of the fact that I've always been made fun of them. And I'm proud of my damn hands and their beautiful imperfections.
I love that. I absolutely love that. What do you like to do when you're not working?
When I'm not working, I like to stay fit. I like to spend time with family, with my fiance, and I like to work on developing things outside of dance and art. So I like to find out what to invest in. I like to just get my life in order because I'm always traveling, usually average 46 weeks a year of travel when not under quarantine issues. And so to be home sometimes is a great thing. A staycation is beautiful. And developing apps is another thing that I love to do.
I like that name, staycation. That's a good one.
Staycation's beautiful. Not anymore, but it was awesome for a while. It was good. Yeah.
What are you afraid of?
Not fulfilling my potential as a human being.
What is your hidden talents?
Hidden talents. Okay. I can edit. I like editing video. I like editing music. I love.
And that we already know through social media, because obviously you can't be just attached to computer genius 24/7, and we see amazing footage that you do. Something that we might not be able to guess.
Okay, I think I give an amazing physical therapy type of massage. I've been broken so many times. I usually get a private lesson once a month now from a physical therapist for the Olympic teams that I work with in figure skating. And she teaches me different techniques and treatments so that we can help each other at home. So my fiance is very lucky to have me, so I can make adjustments and crack and adjust and massage. So I think I'm an awesome, like, home taught therapist.
That is amazing. All right, describe yourself in 3 words.
Determined, creative-minded, which is hyphenated, and wanderlust. Mm-hmm.
If you had to play in a movie, what character would you choose to be?
I think that's easy. I would love to play Donald O'Connor in a movie, and I have a very keen connection with the guy. For those of you that don't know who Donald O'Connor is, it's the movie Singing in the Rain. It's the friend, the sidekick, the guy that did Make 'em Laugh, Make 'em Laugh. Because Donald O'Connor, I actually have the very last bow tie. It was this last dance costume that he wore a week or 2 before he had died. And his widow, his wife, gave it to me, saying that I reminded her so much of him. She gave it to me when I was on tour many years ago. It's one of the only.
Hollywood, if you're listening, this is your guy, okay?
Yeah.
I know it's a quiz time, but I'm really curious. Did you ever try to figure out how much it's worth right now? Because it's such an awesome possession, just out of curiosity.
You know what? No, only because it's invaluable to me. So if it were less than what I thought it would be, I don't want it to destroy the mystery and the I don't know, the fate of it all. So I just love it. It's up against my wall next to my shrine of artists that I've loved, and it's probably my most prized possession, I would say. I think it's.
So I have last 2 questions for you. What is your favorite designer?
My favorite designer. Oh, that's a great question. Oh, my favorite designer, I'm going to say, is my fiance, Daniele Gualeni. Even though that Daniele does not design clothing, he has designed shoes, and he's designed everything else. He designs pieces of art. He designs lights. He designs a lot of really cool theoretical installations all around the world. and he's just personally my favorite designer. Got to give it to him.
I'm going to ask you last question, and then we'll come back to this one.
Okay.
Who is your best friend?
Okay, so my best friend, I would say outside of like family, I would say my two best friends are Elizabeth Legue and Jessica McCurdy. Jessica and Elizabeth, we met in the dance world, and they've both either become artists in different ways. Elizabeth is a secret celebrity hair and makeup stylist. She does a lot of people privately. So like she has a 1-unit station that a lot of like celebrities go to for haircuts. Through a private entryway, and she's just amazing. And then Jessica's a 4 or 5-time world swing dance champion as well. And they've been with me since the beginning. In fact, I wear this ring that the two of them got for me, and it has a black onyx lion on it. The day that I retired, they got me it, and they wrote the number 14 on it, and they wrote their initials on it. So I have my engagement ring, and I have my best friend's ring because they're that special to me, and I don't take it off.
That is so amazing. So our quiz is over, but I do want to ask you a question. How do we find out? Yes, you can sweat it out. It wasn't that complicated. How do we find out about your fiance's designs, or where can we see this? I am very interested in. I would like to check it out and see what it's all about.
Yeah, so you can go to, hey, babe. Babe. Daniele, it's gualenidesign.it.
You're gonna have to type that in. You pronounce the Italian name perfectly. I won't be able to spell that.
Yeah, Gualeni design.it, as in Italy, because he's an Italian citizen. We're working on getting some.
Got that?
Yeah, I'll write it down. You can always follow my Instagram and social media. He's all over it. So he's a brilliant designer, and he focuses on sustainability, which is amazing. And so he has a double master's in robotic engineering and design and materials. So like he's kind of he knows sometimes too much.
So I'm going to throw this at you. Do you still perform at this time? I mean, I know that right now we're in a quarantine and we're all, kind of meditating on next projects and everything else. But do you still do performances?
Yeah. In fact, the last time we saw one another, I was doing a performance at an event you were judging at, right? And
yes,
so
it was beautiful.
It's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, I still perform. In fact, the idea of retiring was not to stop dancing, but to enable myself to dance more, because the problem sometimes with competition is that that's all I focused on. And now that that's out of the way, I feel like I'm a much better dancer because of it. Ironically, I didn't need the competition to be better, or at least I don't now. And so I like to perform. I love to choreograph. I love to create and improvise as well. And then every weekend at dance events, I usually do improv partner dance competitions with modern swing. And so I haven't stopped performing, if it's in my kitchen or if it's on a dance floor somewhere on TV. I love performing. I don't plan on ever stopping that. I think I'm a lifer. So for me, it's just not going to end as long as people want to see it. I'll be doing it.
Yeah, last time I saw you perform was at Eugene's camp when you did Little Together with Eugene. He had to learn your style, which was kind of cool to see. And then you guys did your solo routines, and I might say it makes sense right now because you mentioned modern swing, which is, for me, it's the first time I'm hearing that term, because my view of what West Coast swing is so different from what you guys performed, and I was like, this is cool, it's like so theatrical and so very different. So that was amazing. Just want to compliment you. It was a cool show.
Thank you, Elena. Yeah, it's in general, I think with modern swing, for especially in the ballroom world, I think it's important to start educating this heavily. Like I'll say this, I was working with Ricardo and Yulia on a couple of moves for one of their numbers, and this is a couple of months back before the pandemic. And I was working with Ricardo on just how I do my basic sugar push, right, or my push break that we do in jive. And he was like, "This is not what I learned, from Donnie." And I'm like, yeah, because things have evolved. And that's the problem that I always try and challenge ballroom people, is that yes, we have so much information and so much history, but I think it's important to separate rhythm from refinement. And sometimes people can be stuck in not growing in 10 years or 20 years. And I feel like it's very important to realize that our movements and how we study movement and how we execute movement can always be greatly forward thinking.
Well,
Yeah.
this is a lot of questions in my book too.
Everything involves. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Even how we spin, how we connect, how we do things, it's so different from 20 years ago when we were learning it as a kids, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take an opportunity. I would love one day to do a project with you.
Let's do it. Let's plan it now and shoot a date. Let's make it happen, Snow. That would be awesome.
I think you're an amazing dancer. And I'm so happy that you said yes to us and did this fantastic, you know, a little chat with us. And I can't wait to tell all our friends and to all our followers to watch this, an educational episode, I should say, because I've learned so much from your little chat with us.
Well, it takes great interviewers, I guess, to get good information.
Well, I agree. We're coming to the end of this interview, but I have, like, the longer we talk, the more question after question. I think I'm the one who's going to show up for a lesson in due time.
Anytime. It would be wonderful.
Questions and you know, things that I believe in personally, that I teach and that I judge after. And I think you would be a good person sometimes to discuss some of those things with. Even especially so, I saw your dad and I always felt that he had such an amazing quality of movement.
Mm-hmm.
So that really interests me. So great knowledge. Thank you.
Benji, one last question. Do you do virtual lessons for anybody who would love to catch a lesson with you? Do you do private lessons right now? Because we all do it and we share it all the time, that people can reach us, they can, you know.
I totally do. So I've always done virtual lessons because a lot of my competitors, I do a lot of choreography throughout the year. So a lot of my couples that live internationally that can't seat me all the time, it's not like the ballroom world where they'll fly in, they'll find a place to stay for 6 weeks and get lessons every day. And donate blood for the money that it costs to do that. So I do a lot of online work and coaching. I've done it for many years. It used to be Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and now it's 7 days a week because of what's happening right now in the world. So I do Zoom classes, I do group classes, I do master classes, and I do private coaching. And I also do video analysis. So for me, one thing just to add with what you guys were asking and talking about is the way that I lead, I prove all of my leading through the improv that I do. So all of my kinetic actions, all of the way that I shape my partner, the way that I react to a partner, and the fact that I can make it to music I didn't plan to is something that the ballroom world really doesn't have. And so I believe that body leads, body follows. Music also is part of that, and that we need to learn how to become more honest in our kinetic actions that we share with one another and that we create within ourselves. And it's been wonderful, like with Eugene, talking to him, talking to the likes of Ricardo and Yulia, to even tell them and to adjust things in how they approach their movement and action. One, I mean, listen, I'm a world champion in what I do, and I respect everybody at whatever level you might be in. But I also know what honest leading and honest following is. And I've been doing it since I was a fetus. So I think it's important that no matter what level you are, I feel like there's a way that we can make it more honest. And that is what I can bring.
So we actually have quite exciting episode next time. We have the whole entire family, Novikov's family. So the mom and dad are former dancers. They're retired right now. They own the school. So they still heavily compete in Pro-Am. They both judge, and they have 3 kids that are all ballroom dancing and competing on a high level. One of her sons is a world champion, and he's a Blackpool finalist. So we just really want to know how they manage the whole situation. Plus, we're actually going to have Daniel and Michela, who are the world champions, also on the Zoom with them, so we can ask how they manage this situation, being so young, being so involved, traveling the world, competing, and still being in school. So all of those questions, for those who's going to listen, if you guys have, if you're parents of a dance child or you're the child yourself, you can send us questions and we'll ask people who are like absolutely in there doing it. So I'm excited about that episode.
Thank you so much for coming and joining us and watching our episodes. Benji, it was delightful to have you. We love you so much and we're looking forward to have you again soon.
Thank you,
I'm
guys.
definitely gonna bug you with some swing lessons.
Please do. Reach out to me, Facebook. You can go to benjiwashere.com for more information for my blog and information, and Instagram at Benji Schwimmer. Anytime. Love to work with all of you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
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 Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.